Rejuvenate, restore, refresh, and heal. At Fantuzzo Acupuncture, we seek to help achieve effective health and wellness in an elegant spa-like atmosphere. Fantuzzo Acupuncture specializes in traditional acupuncture, cosmetic anti-aging acupuncture, acupressure, cupping, CBD topical creams, and more. Approach healthcare holistically. Visit FantuzzoAcupuncture.com to book online today. FantuzzoAcupuncture.com.
From attic to basement, we're here for you. It's quality service in all we do. Call Taylor. 500 help.
That's right. It's Taylor 500 Help for all your heating and air conditioning needs. Hey, it's time to get Taylor 500 Help, the heating and plumbing guys out there to make sure that your furnace is winter ready. You want to make sure for that in Rochester because you don't want your furnace to go out in the middle of January. So have the guys come over, check everything out. They'll do that. And I'll tell you what, call Taylor for the Plumbing Safety Essentials Plus plan. You can save $100 on a Bradford White water heater, get free diagnostic fees and no overtime charges on emergency repairs, which is very important. You know, Taylor's been around since 1947. Taylor Heating and Plumbing, duct cleaning, air conditioning, heating, plumbing, home energy, and comprehensive maintenance plans. So call Taylor 500 Help. And if you want your lawn and your trees and everything in between to look great, Precision Lawn and Garden in Webster, Rochester's lawn specialist since 1969, providing Rochester and surrounding areas professional sales, service, and parts. You go up and you talk to Kimberly and Justin, and they will point you in the right direction for the best snowblower for your needs. Chainsaws, blowers, lawnmowers, everything you need, in stock models, sale models. It's Precision Lawn and Garden, and they are in Webster. And if you want your driveway to look fantastic, I think Brian stopped by today, didn't he? Brian from Express Sealers, he does a great job on your driveway. Nothing makes your curb appeal look nicer than a freshly sealed driveway. Don't go into winter with the snow on your driveway with a cracking, because, you know, by the time spring rolls around, you'll be saying, Kimberly told me to call Brian at Express Sealers and I didn't do it. And then where will you be? So call Express Sealers, have them come out, patch your driveway. They patch the cracks. They do it all. They take care of everything. 645-2010. That's 645-2010. And of course, we ask that you support our advertisers because they support us here at the We the People Podcast Network.
When's the snow coming?
Tomorrow.
Live from the We the People broadcast studio in sunny 75-degree Irondequoit, New York.
We're kidding.
Who knew she doesn't like hot dogs? Here's Kimberly Ray.
Shocking. Hey, welcome to Kimberly's Revolution, We the People Podcast Network. And it is Tuesday. Woo woo!
Yeah.
Rolling down the week like we got a party coming up Friday.
Got to work an extra day this week, Kimberly.
God forbid we actually plan things in advance and we wait to the last minute to try to get a food truck.
We've had a month.
Forget about it. Forget about it. Hey, wouldn't it be great to have a food truck? Yeah, food truck. Calling food trucks. No one's available on Friday.
Shocker.
But this is how we roll. So we may just really be having hot dogs.
I might throw some cheeseburgers in there.
Wow, don't get fancy.
I'm going to need another grill.
Be fancy like Applebee's on
right.
date night.
You got a hibachi out in the van, Austin? I think I might need to borrow one.
I have an RV with an air fryer.
Oh, that'll work.
There you go.
That'll work.
It's basically a food truck.
That is Austin. He is our producer on the We the People Podcast Network. There he
Hello.
is. There he is. There's Austin. I am Kimberly. Kimberly's Revolution. Just Tom is joining me. And we have a special guest today.
We do.
I have known this guy since we were 5 and 6 years old. He goes all the way back to Mrs. Rhodes' class in kindergarten in Buckner, Missouri, Buckner Elementary School. It is Brian W. Peterson, and he is joining us right now. And welcome.
Welcome, Brian.
Can't believe after all these years that we're talking again. That is awesome.
All right. Good show.
Here we are. Brian W. Peterson is the name of the guy that is joining us. He has written this book right here, Paper Doll. You can see. Oh, there you go. We're professional here. We got Paper Doll right there. So it is Brian W. Peterson. And I guess because Brian Peterson is kind of a common name. And he lists his preferred pronouns as chief and royals, which we love. You can see you can see the Chiefs poster in the background. That's the Royals too, right? Right next door to it.
Championship posters.
Yeah, championship posters. You got to love that. So his preferred pronouns are Chiefs and Royals.
Gotcha.
And he's written 4 novels, this guy. He's one of the smartest guys to come out of our graduating class of Fort Osage High School in 1984.
Well, it is Buckner, Missouri, right? So how much does that really count?
I will beat you.
Good
I
point.
will come over there and I will beat you. He's written 4 novels, a sci-fi adventure, 2 psychological thrillers, which I cannot wait to read. And the newest one is a true story written about his family, a family that's struggling to get through the Depression, World War II, and everything that came with it. And it's a true story about his family, the 3 brothers that grew up in the upper Midwest. A lady named Hulda, who is your great grandma. But I want to say, I mean, this guy, I really say truthfully, he is one of the smartest guys that came out of our class. He was trained in screenplay and literary writing at Oral Roberts University, which is in Oklahoma. And he was a TV, film, radio major, and he's working on a sci-fi trilogy right now, novels. So we're interrupting his writing time, I'm sure. But Brian W. Peterson, a guy that I just knew growing up as Brian. We went to the same church. Grew up in the same, schools, same town, and he's joining us.
So was there only one church at this town?
There were something like 11. It was a town of 1,696 people.
Exactly.
And I think if I remember right, there were 11 churches.
1 gas station and 11 churches.
There were 2 gas stations.
Yeah, really.
Did you have a McDonald's?
No.
Oh, that doesn't count.
Oh, no.
No McDonald's. We had Haas's Drive-In.
Yeah, and it was
Right.
good.
Right, it was good.
All right.
It was.
Do they have a food truck?
No, they don't have a food truck. So how have you been? By the way, I mean, how did you? And Brian again was probably one of the top in our class, at least top 10.
All right, Kimberly, we get it.
I wasn't ranked in the top 10 because I didn't apply myself much. I was one of those kids that would get bored easy. And so, no, I wasn't in the top as far as in the ranking. And that never bothered me because I didn't care. What's the Billy Joel line? If you're a straight A student, then you think too much. Well,
right.
So I didn't apply myself. And so at some point I had to figure out, you know what, where am I the strongest? And it's in creativity. And so that's the route I took. And it's kind of similar to yours, Kimberly, except for you went into radio. I went TV, film more.
Right.
And I ended up in Southern California, had a script produced. That was a lot of fun. Real Hollywood crew, man, that was neat watching people say the lines that I wrote.
I bet.
But it's Southern California and it's a tough industry in Hollywood. And so it never worked out like I wanted. I had a lot of good story ideas. So I thought, you know what, the second half of my life, I wanted to be an author. And so I figured, you know what, I still have a lot of good story ideas. And so I started writing novels.
And he's been very successful at it. And this paper doll, written by Brian W. Peterson, is at Barnes & Noble. And all your other novels are on Amazon.com. Is that right, Brian?
That's correct.
And the names of those novels, Children of the Sun, Dead Dreams, Wager of Death, and Paper Doll. How do you get your ideas for the novels? I know the idea of this novel, Paper Doll, which we're talking about today, came basically from family members talking about these things that happened so many years ago during the Great Depression and how your family survived to get to where you are today. But how do you come up with your ideas?
Well, first, let me stress that Paper Doll is a novel. It's a true story. It's written as a novel. And I want to stress that because a lot of people don't like to read history books.
Right.
I had a lot of interesting things happen in my family that, if it was only written as a history book, then the family would read it and maybe a few people here and there. But as far as ideas for my fiction, well, first of all, I just have a weird mind and I just think of things. When we were kids growing up, I would imagine bad things happening around us, an attack on the school, all kinds of things all the time. So my brain was pretty warped. And so what I do is I would write down ideas and I would, Children of the Sun. By the way, when you read that, Kimberly, even though it's sci-fi, if you're not a sci-fi fan, it's set largely on Earth, and you'll recognize Buckner in there. You'll recognize parts of it as set in Buckner, really, even without by name. But with Children of the Sun, it was it was something that I had ideas from when I was a kid, and I added ideas later as an adult. And then my psychological thrillers, I think, it just go deeper into the fact, the way I like to get inside my characters' minds. I pay attention to the way people act, the way people think, the way people deal with stress or deadly situations, etc. And then I end up writing about it.
Yeah, and you certainly have. There's a lot of stuff, just going on, around us, that it's probably, something you might get inspiration from. I mean, I look at something like this Gabby Petito story, the van life girl, right? You see everywhere the fact that they were out, they were on a van going across the country, and you think about that, it's like, oh, it's almost a book writing itself, right? Teenage girl, beautiful, not teenage, but she's 22, goes missing, boyfriend drives back the van with, honestly, it's things like this. You go, hey, that might be a good crime novel, psychological thriller of some sort. Maybe there's like a serial killer organization going on out in where Moab, Utah. I don't know.
Well, what really interests me is to get inside the mind of the person who killed, who committed the murder.
Right.
To be inside the mind of the people that, in a lot of cases, like I'm wearing a shirt of the cover of Wager of Death. Wager of Death, the main character is someone who is mentally spiraling out of control. And that kind of thing fascinates me to write about, because you need conflict to advance a story.
Right.
You have to, no matter what you can think of, even if it's a romance, which I don't write, but there has to be conflict in those stories. And so getting inside the mind of someone who is spiraling out of control, that's a lot of fun. And I'm doing that figuratively with my fictional characters. But how I learn also is paying attention to people in real life and what happens and how they end up in that situation. And so, but I also like to deal with average people who do big things, do good things, who basically step up to the plate when they're at that key moment. Back to this girl who's disappeared. I'm more interested in the killer and why that killer ended up to that point. And even if it was, say it were not what everybody thinks, say it were a random killing, I still would want to know how that person got to that point. And that's what I'd be interested in if I were to write such a story.
And that's why some people go, that Brian, he's a little different.
Seems normal to me, Kimberly.
That Brian Peterson, he's got kind of a crazy mind. But yeah, and the crux of it is, it's, who did kill her? Who did I like watching forensic files, and that's why I can't wait to read your psychological thrillers, because I love that kind of stuff. But I also love stories that are set in the past, that have a little bit of truth behind it. And that's why I like this book, Paper Doll, because it talks about three brothers, the Great Depression, World War II, the Greatest Generation, how two brothers went off to war, your great uncles, how one was not able to go off the war because he was 4F, right? He obviously had knee problems, right? Isn't that what your grandpa and so and about your is it your great grandmother?
Yes.
Great grandmother
is my great grandmother. And when I was preparing the story, it was about three brothers. But as when you're a kid, you're growing up, you hear, there she is when she was young. And by the way, if you go back to that same picture, the man on the other page who looks kind of like Abe Lincoln, that's William Peterson, my great grandfather, and that's my middle name is William. Can
I just say you kind of look like him when you were younger?
Really?
Yeah, you did. And this is obviously your grandparents right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your grandparents.
As my grandfather Carl and grandmother Ann.
Aren't they supposed to be having trouble in a pitchfork?
I know they do look like that.
The pitchfork guy.
Yeah,
a little bit. So this was supposed to be a story about the three brothers. And by the way, Paper Doll is the name of a B-24 one of my uncles flew in. He was a ball turret gunner and waist gunner. He's one of the engineers on the plane. And so when I was putting this together, and I researched this for over 20 years, and I read hundreds of letters between family members, interviewed people who knew my family, and including family members. And as I put this together, I realized there's a mother back home who is fighting this emotionally. She's got one son. She's in northern Minnesota. One son's gone to Northern California to work in the shipyards. One son is gone to the Pacific, Leyte and Okinawa. The third is in Britain and flying bombing missions over Germany and a couple other countries. So you can imagine, as a mother, Kim, what she was going through. And so that added an extra layer to the story of adding her story to it. And when I was reading those letters, I was getting to know her, getting to know my uncles and grandfather in ways that I didn't know them. And so it was really a neat thing to be able to do, to tell my family's story and yet tell it in an entertaining way so that other people would be interested in.
Exactly. And, of course, the struggle of getting through the Great Depression. And I don't know if you've talked to, your dad and everyone listening to Kimberly's Revolution has heard stories about how your family got through the Depression. I mean, how did you guys get through that? But there's such a different mindset between, today and how those people in the 30s and 40s got through things. I mean, there's just a different way that they lived, a different way that they survived. I mean, they survived by being a family. And Brian, you and I talked about this earlier this morning, is that, people didn't want to rely on the government. That was embarrassing.
Right.
To families.
They just didn't know better.
Yes.
They just took care of their own. And that's what your family did. And many families did during this time of the Great Depression and World War II.
They were tougher mentally.
Right.
They were more obstinate about taking or being given gifts. They saw it as a sign of weakness. And plus they were a lot poorer. Now, granted, there were people in the cities or people who were already rich or people who didn't lose their jobs who did fine. But there were a lot of people across the country, middle class and the farmers and lower classes, economically speaking, who really struggled. And they struggled in ways, and they lived so much different. We are so rich compared to just the World War II generation. And I'll give you one example. I was talking to a cousin of mine. He's a first cousin twice removed, which means he's my grandfather's generation. And he gave me a lot of information about my Uncle Hap, who's mentioned in the story, about where, he was in Alaska working on the Alaskan highway and all that. Well, cousin Bob told me they had a 3-seater outhouse. And I was going,
fancy.
And
fancy.
They had an outhouse. And so if you had to do your business and your sister's in there, so what? You go in and you do.
We can get one of those for the Pride party Friday night.
We certainly can. Yeah, but
I can't even imagine.
I know.
Can't imagine, well, we've all been in those porta potties when we've been at a concert or a sporting event or whatever. And that's bad enough. But this is the way they lived all the time.
Right.
And so their standard of living was so much lower than us. And yet that made them stronger. They had to rely on themselves and each other more.
Right.
And here's what I love about the book too, because again, we're talking about, a different generation, a different mindset. The fact that everyone, does for themselves. They rely on themselves. They certainly don't really, and they had a different feeling about the country. They loved America. America was the greatest thing ever. They ran to enlist in the service, just like your, great uncles and your grandfather who tried, but could not. And frustrated.
Right.
What can I do? I'm going to go out to California and I'm going to work in the shipyards and help build the battleships and work on.
Yeah. And he rode the trains from northern Minnesota to northern California, like with the hobos. And, he didn't have the money to get there. He literally rode the rails. And something else interesting, and it comes out in the novel, my uncle Bud joined, it was his nickname Bud. He joined the Army because he needed this to survive.
Right.
He was 1A. And back in those days, if you were 1A, no one would hire you. And because they knew you were going to leave. It's not like today where businesses say, hey, look at us. We hire veterans or we hire military people.
Yeah.
They didn't do that back then. They said, oh no, that's a liability. So my uncle, he struggled with jobs, and he was embarrassed by that. But at first, I could really tell in his letters that he joined not for patriotic reasons, and not that he wasn't a patriot. It's just that he was concerned about eating. And but then once he got in the Army and he was a little more comfortable, that was the crew.
That was the flying crew, right?
The B-24 crew,
Mm-hmm.
the pilot, etc. So once he got in the Army, there was a line in one of his letters, and he said, what did he say? Anybody who kicks, meaning complains, anybody who kicks on the United States after this is all over with isn't an American. And it sounds really harsh, but the fact is he's over there putting his life on the line for America. And people back then appreciated that a lot more. They followed the news more. They knew what was going on in the world. I was really surprised at how much my family knew what was going on. And the only newspaper they took was I think it's called the Bemidji Pioneer. It's a little town of 5,000 at the time, 10,000 now. And they took that newspaper, but people passed newspapers around to each other.
You couldn't afford it.
One of the big city newspapers would pass to a number of families and friends, and they kept up with what was going on in the world. And I was really, really amazed by that.
And of course, we want you to buy the movie, you buy the paperback, Paper Dolls. We want you to buy that, but we'll just tell you that of the three brothers, the two that joined the service, one of them didn't come back, and it's how your family kind of dealt with things after World War II was over. But here's what's also different from today as opposed to back in the day when your novel takes place, Paper Dolls, is that those brothers, any money that they made, they sent the majority of that money back to their mother, Hulda, who was the basis of the family. Sent that money, any money, just about all of the money, except for what, like they maybe kept a couple of bucks for themselves, and that was it.
Yeah, and the problem that she had was, so she was married, had 5 kids, and then her husband died in 1929, and of course just before everything went down the toilet across the country, and so all of a sudden she is the mother of 5 children who are all at age to be at home, and she had to take care of all of them, and then she lost the farm because of taxes. And it was a minor amount of money, but she wasn't made aware of how much. And so she lost the farm. And at one point, and see, by the time she lost the farm, I think 3 of the 5 were out of the house.
Right.
And at one point, she was living in a caboose of a train with the 2 kids that had been converted into a post office briefly. And then when I don't remember if it was a post office yet or not, but it was a caboose of a train. And that's what she lived in and for a while until she was able to get another place to rent. And so she bounced around a lot after they lost the farm.
Welfare from anyone. Didn't take, any welfare from the, didn't sit around and complain that no one's helping her out. I mean, she helped herself out. And what I love too, is you put together this book, Paper Doll, based on a lot of the letters that you said. And there are also letters and notes from Hulda. She was a little psychic, Tom. She could kind of figure out what was coming up next. And
if she was such a good psychic, she should have bought some stock with that. With that money they sent her back.
I know, right? But she did write things down that she had premonitions about, right, Brian?
Yeah, and she didn't write them down, but there's one that plays an important role in the book, so I won't go into it, that she did write down, and I still have the paper with her handwriting, with all the letters. But what I'm referring to, or what Kim's referring to, is just minor things. She would all of a sudden say, "Oh, I better bake a pie. We're going to have company." Nobody said there was going to be company. They didn't have a telephone at the time. She would just feel it that they were going to have company.
How weird is that?
And then one that's in the book that one of my uncles told me, he was present when it happened. He said, there's a train whistle blew. And all of a sudden she perked up and she said, her mother, they called her Grandma Thompson, her mother was on that train. And so she's going to have a guest. So she better put some coffee on. And she had no way of knowing this for a fact, but she got this premonition. As soon as she heard the train whistle, she put coffee on. A little bit later, there's her mother showing up at the door unannounced.
So weird.
And it was just odd things. So I talked to some people, both family and non-family, who said, yeah, everybody that knew Hulda knew she did this because she did this a lot. So it's just odd.
Do you have did that pass down to you, Brian? Did you get, premonitions? Do you have psychic abilities at all?
You know, what's funny is when you're done with the novel, you read the appendices and there's Hulda. And when you read the appendices, I actually address that. And there's a story in there I won't go into right now about my dad's sister, Carl's oldest child. And then I always do these little things that are just minor, not like psychic, but minor in scope. But my wife calls them doing a Brian. So, I've dropped a coin on the carpet and it stayed on edge. Goofy, just little things like that. And I use one example in the book, so I won't use it here. But usually they're just very minor. There's no way that could happen. You couldn't do that if you tried 100,000 times, and yet I did it once on accident. And everybody does those, I think. Right. It's just that I do it regularly. I do it multiple times a week. And, just little oddities.
Yeah, you might want to play the lottery. You never know how lucky you might be.
Really.
You can be odd enough to be one of the winners. Our guest, of course, is Brian W. Peterson. He has written a novel called Paper Dolls, based on the air crew, the flight crew, right? In World War.
Yeah, that was the name of the B-24. You're right.
B-24, and that your uncle was a part of that crew at the time. I want to show the picture of where they're standing there with the actual paper doll. So again. What year was that?
Paper doll is a cardboard cutout of an ad. So it's hard to see on camera, but they stole it from a hotel lobby. And after they did that, they decided to name it Paper Doll.
Brian, you must be like one of the babies in your family, because I know my uncles, and I think Kimberly as well, they were in Korea. And
my dad was in Korea.
And we're all about the same age here. So the fact that your uncles are 10 years older, you must have been a baby in that environment.
These are my great uncles.
Oh,
all
right, there you go.
Not my dad's brothers, but his dad's. His father's brothers. So that's why.
Yeah, the great uncles, because his grandfather Carl is the one who was 4F, couldn't enlist. They wouldn't take him in any of the the Army or the Marines or whatever, and so he went out to work the stockyards during World War II. So you can find the novel Paper Doll and any of Brian Peterson's novels on Amazon, and of course Paper Doll. Brian W. Peterson is available on at BarnesandNoble.com. Do we have the picture we can put up? There we go.
Or you can just wait for Kimberly to finish reading it, and she'll sell it to you for $10.
Yeah. Exactly. But so, I mean, is it easy for you to write? Is it easy for you to sit down and write novels? Is it something that comes? When do you sit down and write? Do you write in the morning? Do you write in the evening? Does it just in the middle of the night if it comes to you?
It comes naturally. It comes easily.
You're lucky.
Now, Paper Doll was different because Paper Doll involved a lot of research. Okay. So that was different. But when I'm writing fiction, it's just whenever. I try in the evenings and then on weekends, and I spend a lot of time on that then. But so what I do is I outline, and that's important for me. Everybody's brains work differently. A lot of authors don't outline, but I outline so I know exactly where we're going and what's going to happen next.
Right.
But then I leave myself enough room for more creativity as I go. And by the way, I realize Just Tom isn't going to read the novel because it's got 490 pages.
Way too many pages. Although there is quite a few pictures, so that cuts it down.
There you go.
Pictures I love because they're anybody's family.
I'll wait for Fitzy to make the movie, and then once we get the movie made,
it'd be a great movie.
I will definitely.
Speaking of,
I will definitely pay $4.99, Brian, and I'll buy the movie on Amazon.
Okay. So I was trained in screenwriting also. And so people always tell me, hey, that could be a movie. Well, that's because how I saw it and how I wrote it. And I have a film producer attached now. Well, we're just finalizing it to Paper Doll.
Wow.
And yeah, it would be a great movie. So,
Wow.
So yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And I'm working hard, spending a lot of time marketing myself, marketing my books. And what's funny is, for anybody watching this who they enjoy writing, if they've published anything, they know the hardest part, if you're a good writer, is the marketing. The marketing stinks if you're not used to that. I want to write
in real
I don't want to
estate.
sit here and plug. Yeah, there you go. Hey, I'll be a real estate agent for you.
The same thing in podcasting. It's the same thing in everything.
You have to be able to not only do your job, but do all the extras that go along with it. I mean, and if you're not good at it, then it can be a struggle. But here you are, and you're a natural at it. So, but you know what? I don't think a lot of people dig into their backgrounds and know, and they should know about their families, because it's interesting the struggle that some family. I mean, we live here in Rochester, New York, and I know there are a lot of immigrants where your great uncles and your great grandmother and your grandfather all were a lot of immigrants, a lot of Italian immigrants here in Rochester, and I don't think really enough people look back and say they struggled, yet they were happy to be here, and they made it work, and they wanted to be Americans, and they wanted what America represented. And that was freedom, the freedom to have a better life for their kids and their grandkids, and their grandkids happen to be you, and the great grandkids happen to be you, Brian. And that's what they just wanted, a better life from where they came from. And that's something that's lost now that we're doing.
Right. And they melted. It was a melting pot. And when people came to this country, they changed their names to Americanize it so they would fit in better. And in fact, Hulda, my great grandmother, when she went to school, her first year of school, I don't know if they had kindergarten, probably first grade. When she went to school, she was immediately kicked out, and they told her parents, do not let her back until she learns English, because And so,
can you imagine happening today? The lawsuits.
Yeah.
Lawsuits.
But the idea was, you can't melt. You can't be part of it unless you speak the same language. And I've lived in a neighborhood in Southern California where not everybody spoke English, and you can't get to know those folks. It's just not possible. And if you don't get to know them, you don't learn to trust them. And if you don't trust them, you don't have a true community. And so back then it was, nope, get her out till she learns English.
What language did your grandmother speak?
Swedish.
She was Swedish.
Yeah, I have a lot of Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish. So
and they all immigrated to that upper Midwest, South Dakota, North Dakota,
Minnesota,
the whole area.
Minnesota.
I can't wait. I mean, if this turns into
they're all flaming liberals.
If this turns into a movie, that would be fantastic.
Right.
Paper Dolls, and of course, but I was talking about our little town being the quintessential, a little town to grow up in. And I think if someone were to go back and tell your great uncles that were in the war, that they were fighting for freedom, for your chance to have your own thoughts, because not only does Brian, write novels and science fiction and psychological thrillers, but he also wrote for several newspapers and political websites. He has ideas and thoughts that are his own, and he has the freedom, to get all that information out there, which is something that people are trying to put a clamp down on. The things that your great uncles fought for, freedom of speech, freedom to, assemble, are things that are trying to be taken away from society now.
No question. Your own points of view are, unless they fit the narrative, then they're not welcome.
Right.
I can't put words in the mouths of my uncles or my grandfather. And in fact, my grandfather, he was a Democrat, but it was everything what you're describing that's going on now was foreign to them.
Right.
It's not something that they would even believe would be happening here. So it took time. There are several reasons why we've gotten here, including education, and people don't know anything of what's going on in the world, let alone find Minnesota on a map.
Right.
But but I am amazed at since writing this and reading and learning and all, reading the letters, to see the difference and to know that it had to have taken place incrementally, the changes. Because if you think, Kim, things are a lot different than when we were young. You and I lived from ages 5 to 8. We lived a block apart before my family moved to the other side of town, a whole mile away. And when you think about
Wait a minute. Which one of you guys lived on the other side of the railroad tracks, right? in the neighborhood.
We didn't have that. The town was too small to have that.
Yeah, the town was too small.
Oh, okay.
It was too small. I moved to the other side of town. That meant a mile away. So, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a mile and a quarter. Who knows, but
it's probably about 300 feet, but you're thinking it's a mile and a quarter.
But when you think back to then, Kim, how different attitudes were then versus now. And it was no big deal to have friends with a whole lot of different points of view, but everybody was pretty mainstream,
right?
Whether Democrat or Republican, they were still within this narrow track. And now we have people who think socialism is good. Well, socialism is the economic system of tyranny. Socialism is not freedom. So that means you have a lot of people who believe that are opposed to freedom. And that's just mind-boggling when I think about my uncle participating in dropping bombs on a fascist nation. That's just mind-boggling.
Right, exactly. Brian W. Peterson is our guest, and of course, Kimberly's Revolution from the We the People podcast studios. We want to thank our sponsors, Fantuzzo's Acupuncture, of course, Precision Lawn and Garden, Taylor Heating, 500 Help, Taylor Heating and Plumbing, and Express Sealers. We want to encourage you, if you want to advertise on the We the People podcast network, we are not opposed to that. We like people to spend their money here on the We the People podcast network. And of course, just a little programming note. We are having the big party on Friday. We're doing a podcast first starting at 4:00. And then the party is from 5 to 8 afterwards here at 530 Titus in Irondequoit. So if we hope that all of our patriots who are listening can come out and join us. We want to see your beautiful faces. We want to talk to you.
Absolutely.
We want to shake your hand. We're not afraid of COVID. Brian and his wife had COVID, by the way, right?
Had it pretty bad. In fact, my wife was hospitalized for 6 days, and they were putting percentages on whether or not she was going to survive.
That's pretty scary.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll wake you up, let me tell you. And it changes your perspective on some things. And I know it definitely changed her perspective. I had it bad, but I did not have blood clots, so they did not hospitalize me. And but it took me 3.5 months to recover till I was back 100%, other than the sense of smell. And but she's an instant diabetic because it's after she recovered, quote unquote. It's called microclots.
So wait a minute. So she wasn't a diabetic before COVID, but now she is?
Yeah, because the pancreas produces insulin. Right. Yeah, the pancreas produces insulin, and COVID destroyed it. And I shouldn't say destroyed. But to some degree or another, destroyed its ability to produce insulin. Right. Damaged her kidneys, damaged her liver. Wow. And so according to one of her doctors, there are around 300,000 people in this country who are in that same situation. And we were wearing masks. We were doing what we were supposed to do. And but she has not 100% recovered. And this was last November. And she, because of her organs I just mentioned, she probably won't recover 100%. Really? We can make things better with prayer and medicine, but otherwise she's in some tough straits, and it's going to stay that way. I did recover. And it was challenging. It was bad. Most people get it and they got, it's like a cold, or you get knocked on your butt for a day, Unfortunately, we managed to get a good one. So, but I have to tell you though, I have the antibodies. My wife has the antibodies. Her antibodies, she was off the chart when they tested her.
Really?
And I just, because if you get it bad, you get the antibodies. And I don't know how bad. You might get it mild and get the antibodies. I don't know. But I was listening to you and your show when I was recovering, and you were talking about going into Wegmans and not wearing a mask and people being upset with you and all this. And I thought, Kim's right. And it inspired me just to quit wearing a mask. And the only time I do now.
Oh, wait a minute. Time out.
What's the
Time
point?
out.
I've already had
Rule.
it. I've already had
Brian,
it.
time out. There's a rule, Brian. You can never say Kimberly's right.
I'm right.
No.
I'm right.
Oh.
I'm right.
Oh.
Ah.
Well, I can show pictures of her when she's young if you want.
All right.
I want to see them, Tom.
I want to see her in the sandbox.
I like
have
the
her in the
sandbox.
sandbox.
I like the sandbox.
All right,
Here,
Kimberly. Right. Okay, keep going.
Oh, there I
This comes
am.
up good.
There. Oh
Aw.
my Lord.
Where's your
Stop.
red hair?
That's
That's
1979. I
It's
got one
black and
more.
white. You got one more? Oh Lord.
1980.
Lord.
That was for Tom. I did
My
not.
All
mother,
right.
my mother made me get a perm. I was
Beauty.
I was on the yearbook staff. Oh, that's awful. That's awful.
Now, Tom, you got to fax me a hot dog during the
All
party.
right, I will.
No, but he was telling me how he survived. But yeah, I mean, and by the way, are you familiar with Wegmans? I know they don't have Wegmans.
Yes.
He lives in Kansas now, but and he moved across state line, which I've already chastised Brian about moving across state line. I'm like, for one thing, when you're from Missouri, you don't move across the state line. You, for God's sakes, don't move out to Olathe or areas out there. But he did. He moved out to where do you what?
I
Stillwell.
live out in the country outside of Spring Hill, Kansas.
Oh, Spring Hill. Sorry about that.
Because everybody knows where Spring Hill is.
Yeah,
Sure.
everybody does. So I've
It's twice as big as Buckner.
I've already
Wow.
chastised it.
Do
yeah.
they have a McDonald's?
But yeah, you're familiar with Wegmans, which is pretty cool. Because Wegmans is a great grocery store.
Yeah, I've been in there. I've been in New York and been in Wegmans.
Have you?
And yeah, they're nice. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny Wegman.
I don't
knows
get as
better.
excited about stores. Sorry.
It's a grocery store, right? They do sell
Yeah.
books, and if they don't sell paper doll, they should sell paper doll. But you know, the other thing I was thinking about was, and you mentioned that your grandfather was a Democrat. My dad was a Democrat. I mean, if your family was involved in a factory or the UAW or a member of a union, you voted Democrat. My father was a Kennedy Democrat. He was. I mean, that's just the way that you voted. But now let me just tell you, let me show you some pictures and you can give me your thoughts on them. I'm going to show Brian some pictures. Do we have the picture of Trudeau? He won, by the way, in Canada yesterday. He won the election. Do we have the picture of Trudeau? There he is,
There he
blackface. Do we have the picture, the side by side? There he is. That was yesterday afternoon. As after he found out that he won the election in Canada. Do we have the picture of the maskless masses at the Emmys? There they are. Not a mass to be seen at the Emmys, Brian. Not one. And you know they're all liberal as all get out, right?
They're part of what one writer I like calls them part of the ruling class. We're part of the country class, meaning the main part of the country. They're
Right.
the ruling class.
They're
I
the
like
ruling
that
class.
terminology.
You don't see a mask on any of those individuals in close proximity, by the way. Let's show the picture of AOC, the socialist girl, right? $30,000 to go to the the Met Gala that she was a part of, right? The person that
I could sell a car and still couldn't get in.
right, right, exactly.
Well, the elitists down in Venezuela, they can afford a $30,000 dress.
And by the
Nobody
way,
else can.
the woman that made that dress,
Yeah.
she is under investigation by the IRS. I mean, I don't think it
Back taxes.
Back taxes.
Back rent.
6 years of back taxes, right? And that is just. But let me just make it clear, the maskless Emmys. Do we have a picture of the Virginia governor, the Democratic governor in Virginia? Do we have him?
Northam?
Yeah, Northam. Let me just be clear to everyone that these things are only okay if you are a part of the liberal left. If you try any of those things and you have a conservative bent, you are completely gone. You're not even going to have any discussions any longer. You're just they're going to make you go away. And
my favorite picture of Trudeau is when he's dressed as an East Indian, I don't know what the word is, garb, regalia. And he looks hilarious. And they don't even dress that way anymore, but he didn't realize it. And
Right.
on a trip, he dressed up And the Indians were saying, what is he doing? He looks absurd, because, he was dressed up as they did, hundreds of years ago.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you look at this and you think, if your great uncles and your, ancestors could see this, and they probably they'd flip out of their minds, the state that we're in today. And they probably wonder, what the hell did we fight for?
Well, most people, as I mentioned earlier, most people stayed within the norm, the mainstream, we call it, because there was a stream, figuratively speaking, that was for 99, well, I shouldn't say 99, a good 95% of the people. And it was the oddballs who joined the Communist Party in the 20s and 30s. And it was the oddballs that joined Antifa in the 20s and 30s, not the normal people. And so, what we've done is we pulled everybody into the mainstream, which means there's no mainstream. If everybody's normal, then nothing's normal. And that's what we've done.
Right. Exactly. When you're not writing, do you watch Netflix? I mean, what do you watch? What are some, do you read? What are some of your favorite novels?
I read history. And so when I'm at a show.
Can I ask you a question? When you're reading history, when you went back and were doing any research, did you come across any general who may have called up any Hitler's generals and told them, hey, we're getting ready to attack? If we are going to attack Normandy, we'll let you know ahead. Did you come across any of that in reading of history anywhere? It's a question I'm asking for a friend.
I can't think of any time in history that I've ever seen that the general would either in ancient times be put to death,
of course,
or in more recent times tried, and even court-martialed. Well, that would be a trial, court-martial. But it is bizarre to me that the day that news broke, that he wasn't gone by the end of the day. And that says a lot about our society. There's no such thing as shame anymore, because people don't recognize shame, because everything's normal and acceptable.
Right.
And so, no, it just wouldn't happen. So I read a lot of history. I read very, very few novels. And that gets me in trouble a little bit. It shows people will come up to me and they'll say, well, who, have you read so-and-so? I'm going, I don't know who that is, but I don't want to tell this person I don't know who it is. So I go, no. And,
well, you're honest. I mean, listen.
Yeah, I just say, no, I haven't read them. I don't tell them I don't know who they are. So there's only so much honesty at that point.
Well, that's an easy question for me.
We went to the same church. If his mother and father knew that he was telling a lie, which, you didn't.
My God. Yes.
By the way, you didn't lie, and you didn't go to church and fidget, and you paid attention in Sunday school. And if you didn't, you were going to get a whipping on the way out of the church, the First Baptist Church.
And your Sunday school teacher and mine at one point was my mother.
Yes.
So I definitely had to behave.
Mine was my mother.
I didn't want to pay attention half the time.
I honestly thought my mother could kill me at any moment.
and she probably could. So you read a lot. Do you watch a lot of Netflix, or who do you watch a lot of TV?
Well, I live out in the country and I can't stream. I can record, but I can't stream. So so for a while I had
because you live in Kansas.
Do you still have a VCR, Ryan?
No, I got rid of it about a year ago. I think for a while I had Paramount, Peacock, one of those Peacock.
Yeah.
I had Peacock briefly. No, it's Paramount. So anyway, but you didn't stream on that, and so I could record shows download shows, and then play it from my phone to the TV. But that was only because Apple gave it to me for free for a year. So that was that.
There you go.
And so, yeah, I can't stream. I don't have fast enough internet service. I can't wait for Elon Musk to get all those satellites up there 100%. It's just now getting to that point.
Elon Musk is selling his house, by the way. I had a story yesterday. Elon Musk, for like an enormous amount of money, Elon Musk is selling one of his mansions. He said that by the time that he is a certain age, he's going to sell off all of his assets. And I think he's getting rid of his houses one by one. But this is like, I don't know how many million, 25 million. I know we had the picture somewhere, but don't worry about it, Austin. We had the picture yesterday. I didn't get to the story. But yeah.
Tom, are you his real estate agent?
Yeah,
I am, yes.
I'd like to be his real estate agent. Exactly.
Elon and I are buddies.
Oh, there it is. Look at that. There's Elon. Do you drive a Tesla, Brian?
Are you kidding? I wouldn't have the electricity to make it back. So too far out in the country.
Because you live in Kansas. What did your family say about you moving across state line? They must have been, they're like, oh, Brian, he's got to be the black sheep of the family.
Most people live
Actually,
by a river, right, Brian?
Actually, they were relieved because I was coming back from California. So,
okay, even worse. He moves back from California across state line.
Kansas is better than California.
Right.
Unless you want to surf, then it's not.
It certainly is. He's got the picture. Want to show a picture. He's got the Chiefs and the Royals back there. Let's show a picture. This is my grand dog. His name is Tyron. This is Tyron the Terrible. We call him Tyron. Tyron, I want to just call him Badge, like Honey Badger, but that is Tyron, the blue nose pity. It's my daughter's dog that her boyfriend bought her a couple of weeks ago. He doesn't quite fit the jersey yet, Brian. He doesn't.
Pretty soon he'll outgrow it.
Pretty soon he will outgrow it. Yeah.
He'll grow as the defense grows. Don't worry. It was just one game. It's no big deal. We're still going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're done. Stick a fork in them.
Shut up, Tom. Tom's a Bills fan, but
I know where I live, Kimberly. You moved away from Kansas City like what, 30 years ago?
I did, but I still love Kansas City, and I still drive by.
Wait a minute. You told me earlier you're 35.
I know.
So how could you move to Kansas City 30 years ago?
How long
does that work?
How long have you been married to your wife?
30 years.
Congratulations.
30 years. How long you been married to your wife, Tom?
32.
32. So, okay. So just tell me, because you're a writer, but I know you're not like the typical writer, the typical novelist, because you have a different personality. But
and I'm sober.
How you're sober? How is it that you and your wife have managed to remain married for 30 years?
He writes a lot of books and writes a lot of books.
Stays out of her hair.
One of the biggest things is we get over things quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
When, I mean, that's just one of the things. I mean, we both have our Christian faith to fall back on. We have enough similar, but enough different interests to help so that we can, be together for the similar and then back off a little bit for the different. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is just when I get mad, I remember, I have to remember, even though I'm mad at her, I still love her. And that's the number one thing. So that's the biggest deal to me is get over things. Get over it because you love this person.
And move on.
Move on.
That's the only way you make it.
100%.
Tom's
what did I do?
Marriage advice is just do whatever my wife tells me.
Do what she says.
That's not me.
Whether it makes sense or not.
And I'm like, if my husband doesn't let me do it, if he lets, honestly, there's no let. It's like I just do it, and if he gets mad at me, he better not get mad. I just do what I want.
I always start with no, but it just never seems to work.
Yeah.
I want to interject one thing, Tom.
What did I do?
For the audience.
All right.
I want to say this about Kimberly, though. She's the same person to a large degree. I've noticed that by watching and listening to the show. She's still the fun-loving, smiling, super energetic gal she was, who you better not cross because she'll bite your head off. She's tough as nails. That was one thing I got a kick out of when I started watching this show and listening to this show on my app is she's still Kim. It's still the same gal. I got a kick out of that.
Still me, same
so
girl.
Don't cross. I know you've already learned it, just Tom. Don't.
Oh
cross.
yeah. No.
Same girl that only lived a block and a half over from me. Same girl with the purple bike. Same girl that rode my bike to softball practice in the Buckner pool, which is gone. They filled it in. And it seems like the leaders of our little town that we grew up in, which again was the greatest growing up experience ever in the late.
It was
60s
awesome.
In 70s. I couldn't have asked for a better childhood where you could run all over town, ride your bike all over town, and your parents were just like, yeah, somewhere down at the park.
They didn't worry.
You didn't worry about some weirdo in a van picking up your kid down at the ballpark. By
They
the
didn't,
by
they
the
didn't
Buckner
have the
Pool.
alphabet killer in Buckner, Missouri.
Oh, they had enough. You should do a little research on that. The alphabet killer here in Rochester. I think they finally identified who that was, and I think he went from here out to California. But it's an interesting story about a serial killer. See, this is one of the things I think about in my mind. Things that really can't exist anymore because we're so camera laden everywhere. Everything is on video. It's like, we don't have telephone operators really anymore, right? You can't be a serial killer in this day and age, Brian, because
It's true.
they can track you anywhere.
But
Right?
I would consider that in the good column, just so you know.
Well, of course.
And
But
Brian, do you still have
before we
to
move too
call
much
up-
further,
You still have to call up on your phone to get the time and temperature out there?
I
no.
wonder if I could. Now I want to know if I can. I wanna
Remember
check
that?
out.
Time and temperature?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
1-2-1-5-5-5-1212 or something. I don't know what it was.
In Buckner, there was a way to make your own phone ring. You could dial a number
Yes.
and hang it up, and it
Yes.
would make the phone ring. So I did that once in high school. I made the study hall was in the cafeteria, and it was real quiet. And I went over without the teacher seeing, because it was a large cafeteria, dialed it and made the phone ring. I went back, sat down, and the phone rang. Then I answered it and told the teacher it was for him. So he just thought somebody hung up,
You crazy kids.
I know. We're crazy.
Yeah, I know.
We're
I
crazy.
have one complaint though, Kim. You
Uh-oh.
aged better than I do, and that's not fair. So
Aw.
I look older than
Stop.
what I am, and you look younger.
Well,
Stop
Brian,
it.
you
That's
still
not
got
fair.
that 70s porn stash working for you. So you're good.
Actually, I've only had this since the 90s.
Well, I mean, it's been great having you on the show. Paper Doll is an excellent novel. Congratulations.
Thanks for showing up.
You can get it at barnesandnoble.com. Brian W. Peterson, by the way. There he is. There you can see him because he's right there. But yeah, Brian W. Peterson. You're on Twitter too. Do you want to tell everyone what your Twitter is?
Oh, I got to write.
Twitter is at written by BWP. My email is written by BWP at Gmail. So it's all the same thing.
Okay.
And
Written
my
by
website
BWP.
is
Yep.
my website is writtenbybwp.com. And so for folks interested in thrillers or sci-fi, and you don't remember which is which, Barnes and Noble versus Amazon, just go to writtenbybwp.com, and you can link to all the books from there, learn more about me, learn more what's coming. And so as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm working on a sci-fi trilogy.
Right. I was going to
you
ask you
can-
about that.
Yeah,
How-
if you email me at writtenbybwp@gmail, I will add you to my blog list. I don't blog real often, but so you know when the next books are coming, and just mention that you were listening to Kimberly's Revolution. I'll get you on that email list.
All right. Very good.
All right.
So-
And if you type the word Brian in the code box, you get 10% off.
Not on my site.
Not on his site. It has been great having you. We appreciate it.
Great to see you. Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, and hope your family's well. And tell everyone I said hi.
Thank you, and same to your mother. And thanks a lot. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
It has been great having
All
you.
right. Let me know when the movie
it's
comes
a
out. I'll
paper-
give you $6.
Paper Doll. It's a pretty interesting read, and we thank him for being on the show. Hey, listen, we've got a party coming up on Friday.
Yeah.
We're doing the podcast tomorrow, a show coming up on Friday. It's an additional show. It's going to be at 4:00 on Friday, and our party is going to be on Friday from 5 until 8. And we're currently working on a food truck and all that good stuff.
Right.
But I don't know if that's going to happen. We're just, we just roll.
Whatever happens,
We
happens.
just roll
We
on
do
it.
have prizes.
Do we have prizes?
We
are
have
gonna
a
give away-
door prize.
All right. Very
from
good.
Fantuzzo's Acupuncture.
Yay.
A
That
gift
works.
certificate.
That works. Very nice.
Right. Some lucky winner will get poked by needles.
All right, good. It is the We the People Podcast Network, Kimberly's Revolution. We'll be back tomorrow. Chad Hummel will be joining us
Hopefully.
for the regular 4:00 show. Hopefully, I know he's busy. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
I don't think he's going to do his show today.
Mhm.
I haven't heard, but
Okay.
Marcus, I believe Marcus will be in at 6:00 today. He's not tonight.
Oh, he's not. He's
No, he just texted me.
Oh,
Oh,
he's
okay.
not.
So
Okay.
so this is it today. So We apologize.
Okay. Well, that's okay.
It's just us.
All right. It is just us. And thank our sponsors. We hope that you, call on our sponsors to provide you with whatever you need. Fantuzzo's Acupuncture. And of course, Taylor Heating and Plumbing. You got to get those furnaces serviced. Got to get it done. Winter is coming fast. Also, Precision Lawn and Garden. You need a snow blower. You need a chainsaw. They can help you at Precision Lawn and Garden. And of course, Express Sealers, where they can make your driveway look fabulous. And that is exactly what you want your driveway to look. You want it to be fabulous. And so that's going to do it today for Kimberly's Revolution. And as always,
she's the same old Kimberly.
I'm the same
Never
old me.
change.
That's it.
God bless. Be kind to others.
Rejuvenate, restore, refresh, and heal. At Fantuzzo Acupuncture, we seek to help achieve effective health and wellness in an elegant spa-like atmosphere. Fantuzzo Acupuncture specializes in traditional acupuncture, cosmetic anti-aging acupuncture, acupressure, cupping, CBD topical creams, and more. Approach healthcare holistically. Visit FantuzzoAcupuncture.com to book online today. FantuzzoAcupuncture.com.
From attic to basement, we're here for you. It's quality service in all we do. Call Taylor. 500 help.